For over half a century, long before humanity first set foot on the moon, and even before the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, beeped its way across the heavens, astronomers and radio pioneers were encountering signals from space that defied easy explanation. Strange echoes, delayed radio transmissions bouncing back from somewhere beyond the Earth's atmosphere, hinted at something anomalous in our cosmic neighborhood. These early mysteries, combined with fleeting observations from the dawn of the space age, would coalesce over decades into one of the most enduring and fascinating legends in the annals of ufology. It is the story of an alleged alien sentinel, a dark, silent watcher in polar orbit, said to have been circling our planet for thousands of years, monitoring humanity's progress. It is a technological specter, glimpsed in grainy photographs and fleeting radar returns, a mystery wrapped in an enigma. It is known as the Black Knight satellite. The origins of the Black Knight legend are often traced back to the very beginnings of radio technology, specifically to the groundbreaking experiments of Nikola Tesla. In 1899, while working at his experimental station in Colorado Springs, Tesla was attempting to develop his system for wireless global communication. Using a highly sensitive receiver, he began picking up strange rhythmic signals. He described them as clear, distinct pulses, appearing in groups of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Tesla, a man already convinced of the possibility of extraterrestrial life, famously speculated that these signals were not natural interference, but were in fact intelligent communications originating from another world, possibly Mars. While modern science attributes Tesla as signals to naturally occurring phenomena like Jovian plasma torus signals or distant pulses, which wouldn't be discovered for decades, his bold claim planted a seed in the public consciousness, the idea that signals from space could be artificial and that someone or something might be trying to communicate. This idea gained further traction in the 1920s with the discovery of a bizarre radio phenomenon known as long-delayed echoes, or LDEs. Amateur and professional radio operators began reporting that sometimes when they transmitted a signal, the echo would return not just fractions of a second later, having bounced off the ionosphere, but several full seconds later, sometimes as long as 30 seconds. This was physically impossible, according to the known science of the time. For an echo to be delayed that long, the signal would have had to travel an immense distance far beyond the moon, reflect off something, and return. Or alternatively, it would have had to be captured, stored, and then deliberately retransmitted by some unknown mechanism in near-Earth orbit. The LDE phenomenon was confirmed by multiple researchers around the world, yet no satisfactory explanation could be found. Scientists proposed various theories involving complex plasma interactions in the magnetosphere, but none could fully account for the duration and consistency of the delays. The mystery deepened, fueling speculation that the echoes were not natural, but were perhaps the product of an artificial probe, a non-human listener parked in orbit, passively observing Earth's fledgling radio communications. These strange radio echoes formed the mysterious backdrop against which the space race would soon explode. In 1954, 3 years before the Soviets launched Sputnik 1, several major American newspapers, including the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the San Francisco Examiner, ran sensational headlines based on statements attributed, perhaps erroneously, to retired Marine Corps Major Donald Keyhoe. Keyhoe was a prominent early UFO researcher and advocate. The articles claimed that the US Air Force had detected 2 previously unknown objects orbiting the Earth. These were not meteors, the articles insisted, but artificial satellites. In an era when humanity had not yet successfully launched a single object into orbit, the implications were staggering. Was another nation secretly years ahead in the space race? Or were these objects from somewhere else entirely? While the Air Force quickly denied the reports, the story took root in the public imagination. The idea of mystery satellites, predating Sputnik, became a key element of the developing Black Knight mythos. The launch of Sputnik 1 in October 1957 and the subsequent dawn of the space age only intensified the mystery. As both the US and the USSR began tracking their own satellites and the growing cloud of man-made space debris, they occasionally detected objects on radar that didn't belong. These were often given temporary catalog numbers as unknowns while analysts tried to identify them. Most were eventually identified as pieces of spent rocket boosters, lost equipment, or miscatalogued satellites, but a persistent few remained stubbornly unidentified. And it was during this period in 1960 that another crucial piece of the Black Knight legend fell into place. Time magazine reported that the US Navy's Dark Fence radar system, designed to detect Soviet spy satellites, had picked up a strange, dark object in a highly inclined near-polar orbit. This was unusual. Most satellites at the time, both American and Soviet, were launched into equatorial orbits. A polar orbit suggested a surveillance mission, providing coverage of the entire planet's surface. But neither the US nor the USSR claimed ownership of this mysterious object. Time noted that it was several times larger than any known satellite of the era and speculated it might be a Soviet spy satellite gone astray. However, the object's origin remained unconfirmed, adding another layer to the growing suspicion that someone else was operating in Earth orbit. The timing, just a few years after the Keyhoe articles, seemed significant. Was this dark polar orbiting object one of the mystery satellites detected back in 1954? These disparate threads, Tesla's strange signals, the impossible long-delayed echoes, the pre-Sputnik satellite claims, and the 1960 Dark Fence object began to be woven together by researchers and writers in the emerging field of ancient astronaut theory. They proposed a radical, unifying explanation. All of these anomalies, they argued, were evidence of a single ancient extraterrestrial probe, a satellite placed in Earth orbit thousands, perhaps even tens of thousands, of years ago by an alien civilization, programmed to monitor humanity's development. Its mission was to listen, to observe, and perhaps, through the LDEs, to even attempt a form of communication or reply. Its alleged dark color and polar orbit earned it the nickname the Black Knight. It was envisioned as a silent sentinel, a technological ghost from the stars, patiently watching our species stumble towards the heavens. The legend was born. It was a story woven from scientific anomalies and Cold War paranoia, a narrative perfectly suited for an age grappling with the profound implications of space travel. But the story was still missing its most crucial element, a face. The Black Knight was a phantom, an unseen presence inferred from strange signals and radar blips. That would all change in the decades to come as a new generation of space explorers, armed with high-resolution cameras, would finally capture an image of the mysterious object, providing the legend with its iconic and fiercely debated visual identity. The legend of the Black Knight satellite, born from strange radio echoes and ambiguous radar returns, remained largely a phantom in the early years of the space age. It was a theoretical construct, an inferred presence pieced together from scientific anomalies. For the story to truly capture the public imagination, it needed more than just circumstantial evidence. It needed eyewitnesses, credible observers who had seen the object with their own eyes. And who better to provide that testimony than the elite group of men venturing into the very domain the Black Knight was said to inhabit? As the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs pushed humanity further into space, astronauts began reporting encounters with unidentified objects, adding a new and compelling layer to the mystery. While none of these sightings were definitively linked to the Black Knight at the time, they reinforced the core idea that there were unknown artificial objects operating in Earth orbit. One of the earliest and most intriguing astronaut accounts came once again from Gordon Cooper during his historic Faith 7 mission in 1963. While his report of a glowing greenish object approaching his capsule over Australia became famous, Cooper allegedly witnessed something else during that same flight, something perhaps even more significant to the Black Knight legend. According to unconfirmed reports and later statements attributed to Cooper, during one of his orbits, he observed a dark, solid object approaching his capsule. Crucially, this sighting was said to have occurred while Cooper was experiencing equipment malfunctions that affected his automatic stabilization system, forcing him to take manual control for re-entry. The alleged timing has led some researchers to speculate, was the Black Knight not just a passive observer, but an active participant, perhaps even responsible for the electrical malfunctions aboard Faith 7? While Cooper himself focused more on the greenish object sighting in his public statements, The whispers of this second, darker object encounter added fuel to the fire, suggesting a tangible physical craft, matching the description implied by the dark fence radar incident 3 years earlier. The visual evidence became even stronger during the Gemini program. As we explored in a previous investigation, Gemini 4 Commander James McDivitt photographed a white cylindrical object with a protruding arm in 1965. While officially explained as his booster rocket, McDivitt's steadfast denial keeps the case open. But it was during the Gemini 7 mission later that same year that astronauts Frank Borman and Jim Lovell encountered something even stranger. They reported seeing a bogey, an unidentified object flying in formation with their capsule. The exchange with Mission Control is part of the official transcript. Borman radios, "We have a bogey at 10 o'clock high." Houston asks for clarification. Borman replies, "We have several, looks like debris." He later adds, describing one specific object, "It has a definite shape, like command module shape, booster flying formation." The official explanation was, once again, space debris, likely fragments from their own Titan II rocket. But the description of a definite shape, specifically comparing it to another spacecraft, and the fact that it seemed to be flying formation, leaves room for doubt. Could this bogey have been the Black Knight maneuvering alongside the Gemini capsule? These astronaut sightings, while compelling, were still fleeting and lacked clear visual confirmation that could be widely shared. The Black Knight legend needed an image, an icon. That image would finally arrive decades later, captured not during the frantic race to the moon, but during the construction of the International Space Station, the most ambitious international collaboration in human history. In December of 1998, the Space Shuttle Endeavour on mission STS-88 rendezvoused with the nascent ISS. Its primary mission was to deliver the American Unity module and connect it to the Russian Zarya module, the first 2 building blocks of the station. During one of the crew's spacewalks, or EVAs, to connect power and data cables between the modules, astronaut Jerry Ross was testing a new thermal protection blanket. The blanket accidentally escaped his grasp and began to slowly drift away from the shuttle and the station. As the large, irregularly shaped thermal blanket tumbled away against the blackness of space, the astronauts aboard Endeavour documented its departure with high-resolution digital cameras. They took a series of stunning, crystal-clear photographs of the object receding into the distance. These photos were later released by NASA as part of the mission's public archive. And it was within this set of perfectly mundane, official NASA photographs that UFO researchers found what they had been searching for. One image in particular, designated STS-08872466, became the defining visual representation of the Black Knight satellite. The photo shows a complex, asymmetrical, dark object silhouetted against the bright curve of the Earth. It does not look like a simple, uniform satellite. It appears angular, almost sculptural, with various protrusions and structures. To believers, this was it. This was the face of the ancient alien sentinel, finally captured in undeniable detail by NASA's own cameras. The image spread like wildfire across the internet, instantly becoming the canonical picture of the Black Knight. Websites, documentaries, and books presented the photo as definitive proof, often alongside the historical accounts of Tesla, LDEs, and astronaut sightings. The narrative was complete. The Phantom probe finally had a physical form. The fact that the photo came directly from NASA only added to its perceived legitimacy. How could the agency deny it now? NASA, however, did deny it, and their explanation was embarrassingly simple. The object in the photograph, they stated calmly and repeatedly, was nothing more than the thermal blanket that astronaut Jerry Ross had lost during his spacewalk. It was a known, documented piece of space debris from that very mission, photographed by the crew themselves. They pointed out that other photos taken moments before and after showed the same object from different angles, clearly revealing its blanket-like, non-rigid structure. The alien satellite, NASA insisted, was just a piece of high-tech space trash. For skeptics, this was the final nail in the coffin for the Black Knight legend. The iconic photo, the keystone of the modern myth, was definitively identified as a common thermal blanket. Case closed. But for die-hard believers, NASA's explanation was just another layer of the cover-up. They argued that the object in the photo looked far too solid, too structured to be a flimsy blanket. They pointed to its dark color and unusual shape as evidence that it was something else entirely. Some even proposed that the thermal blanket story was a deliberate piece of disinformation created by NASA to provide a convenient, mundane explanation for an image they knew would eventually capture public attention. They suggested that perhaps the astronauts had photographed both the blanket and the black night during that EVA, and NASA had simply chosen to label the black night photo as the blanket to dismiss it. The debate rages to this day. Is the most famous image of the Black Knight satellite simply a case of mistaken identity, a thermal blanket elevated to legendary status by wishful thinking? Or is it a genuine photograph of an enigmatic object, deliberately misidentified by an agency sworn to secrecy? The answer remained elusive, but the legend itself was far from dead. It would continue to evolve, fueled by new signals, new anomalies, and the enduring human desire to believe that we are not alone. The definitive identification of the famous STS-88 photograph as a lost thermal blanket should have been the death knell for the Black Knight satellite legend. With its most iconic visual evidence debunked, the story seemed destined to fade into the realm of mistaken identity and wishful thinking. And yet the legend endures. Decades after the photo controversy, the Black Knight continues to capture the public imagination, appearing in countless online articles, documentaries, and social media posts. Why does this particular story refuse to die? The answer lies partly in the deep-seated human desire to believe we are not alone, but also in the fact that the photo, while perhaps the most famous piece of the puzzle, was never the only piece. The core mysteries that gave birth to the legend, the strange radio signals, the unexplained orbital objects, remain stubbornly unresolved, continuing to fuel speculation and keep the phantom satellite alive in the cultural consciousness. Let us return to the phenomenon of long-delayed echoes, or LDEs, the strange radio signals bouncing back from space seconds or even minutes after transmission. This was one of the foundational pillars of the Black Knight theory, suggesting an artificial probe capturing and retransmitting our signals. Modern science has proposed several potential natural explanations for LDEs. One prominent theory involves signals traveling along complex paths within the Earth's magnetosphere, bouncing between different layers of plasma. Another suggests interactions within the plasma torus surrounding Jupiter, or even signals traveling vast distances to interact with the plasma clouds surrounding the Sun before returning. While these theories are plausible, none have been definitively proven to account for all observed LDEs, particularly the longest delays, and the complexity of some echoed signals. The phenomenon remains a genuine scientific anomaly, a corner of radio physics that is not fully understood. And as long as that scientific uncertainty exists, the possibility remains, however remote, that at least some LDEs could be artificial in origin, perhaps echoes from a silent listener in orbit. Furthermore, the original claim that sparked the modern legend, the detection of unknown satellites in polar orbit before Sputnik, continues to be debated. While the specific 1954 newspaper articles mentioning Major Donald Keyhoe might have been based on misinterpretations or exaggerations, the core idea that anomalous objects were being tracked in orbit during the earliest days of the space age persists. Declassified intelligence documents from the era reveal that both the US and the USSR were deeply paranoid about the other side achieving a secret breakthrough in space. Both nations' early warning radar systems were constantly scanning the skies, and they did occasionally detect objects they couldn't immediately identify. While the vast majority of these unknowns were later classified as meteors, high-altitude balloons, radar glitches, or eventually identified foreign satellites, the possibility remains that something truly anomalous was occasionally detected. The 1960 Time magazine report about the dark object tracked by the Navy's dark fence radar, for example, has never been definitively explained away. Was it an early, unannounced Soviet satellite? Was it a large piece of space debris from a failed launch? Or was it something else entirely? The ambiguity inherent in these early tracking reports provides fertile ground for the Black Knight theory to take root. In the modern era, with thousands of satellites and countless pieces of space junk orbiting the Earth, identifying a single anomalous object is incredibly difficult. However, proponents of the Black Knight theory point to occasional strange signals or observations that they believe hint at its continued presence. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, occasionally detects unexplained narrowband radio signals that appear artificial but cannot be traced to a known terrestrial or satellite source. While these are often attributed to uncatalogued military satellites or simple interference, they keep the tantalizing possibility of an artificial signal from an unknown source alive. Similarly, amateur astronomers and satellite trackers sometimes report observing dark or non-reflective objects in unusual orbits that don't appear in official satellite catalogues. These sightings are difficult to verify and are often dismissed as misidentified known objects or observational errors. Yet they continue to feed the narrative of a hidden watcher in orbit. Perhaps the most crucial factor in the legend's persistence is its powerful symbolic resonance. The Black Knight satellite embodies a deep-seated archetype, the ancient silent watcher, the advanced precursor civilization that left behind a mysterious artifact. It taps into the same vein of fascination that fuels theories about ancient aliens building the pyramids or visiting Earth in antiquity. This mythological quality also makes the legend incredibly adaptable. As scientific explanations emerge for older anomalies, the Black Knight narrative simply shifts, incorporating new mysteries. If LDEs are explained by magnetospheric plasma, then perhaps the true signal is hidden in a different frequency. If the 1960 object was just space debris, then perhaps the real satellite is in a different orbit. The Black Knight is a ghost. It can never be definitively proven, but it can also never be definitively disproven. It exists in the gaps of our knowledge, in the anomalies that science hasn't fully explained. It is a symbol of the unknown, hovering just beyond the edge of our understanding. As long as there are strange signals from space unexplained radar returns and the enduring human hope for contact, the legend of the Black Knight satellite in one form or another will likely continue its silent, patient orbit around our collective imagination. But beyond the myth and the speculation, what does the official scientific and governmental stance truly reveal? Is there any credible modern evidence that points towards the existence of anomalous, artificial objects in Earth orbit? The final part of our investigation will look at the official search for answers and the tantalizing clues that suggest the mystery is far from over. The legend of the Black Knight satellite, a tapestry woven from disparate threads of scientific anomalies, Cold War paranoia, and astronaut sightings, persists despite the debunking of its most iconic image. It survives because it taps into something fundamental, the enduring mystery of the unknown and the tantalizing possibility that humanity is not alone, perhaps even under surveillance. But beyond the realm of folklore and speculation, what does the official world of space surveillance and scientific investigation have to say? Is there any credible, modern evidence to support the existence of a large, anomalous, artificial object in Earth orbit that defies conventional explanation? Or is the Black Knight destined to remain forever a ghost in the machine, a phantom conjured from misinterpreted data and wishful thinking? The official guardians of Earth orbit are organizations like the United States Space Command, formerly NORAD, and various international space agencies. They maintain a vast network of ground-based radars and space-based telescopes dedicated to space situational awareness, or SSA. Their primary mission is to track every known object orbiting the Earth, from active satellites and the International Space Station down to tiny fragments of space debris the size of a marble. This catalog currently contains hundreds of thousands of tracked objects. Anything new that appears, a newly launched satellite, a piece of debris from a collision, or a natural meteoroid passing through, is quickly detected, catalogued, and its orbit precisely calculated. According to these official bodies, there is simply no evidence in their decades of comprehensive tracking data for an object matching the description of the Black Knight, a large, ancient, technologically advanced satellite in a stable polar orbit. They maintain that if such an object existed, especially one large enough to be detected by 1950s or 1960s radar, their modern systems would unquestionably see it. Furthermore, they argue that the very concept of a satellite remaining in a stable orbit for thousands of years is highly problematic. Low Earth orbit, where the black knight is often said to reside, is not truly empty space. There is a thin residual atmosphere that creates drag, causing objects to gradually lose altitude and eventually burn up upon re-entry. Even satellites in higher orbits are subject to gravitational perturbations from the Sun and Moon, as well as the subtle pressure of solar radiation, all of which would destabilize their orbit over millennia unless they possess an active propulsion system capable of making regular course corrections. For a probe to remain in a stable orbit for 13,000 years, as the legend suggests, it would require a level of technology far beyond just passive observation. It would need to be an active, self-sustaining machine capable of station-keeping for geological timescales, a feat far beyond even our current 21st century capabilities. From the perspective of orbital mechanics and official surveillance, the Black Knight simply doesn't compute. However, the official stance relies on the assumption that our current detection methods are infallible, and that the object, if real, behaves like conventional technology. Proponents of the Black Knight theory often counter that if a civilization were advanced enough to build a probe capable of lasting for millennia, they might also possess stealth technology or other methods of evading detection that are beyond our current understanding. Perhaps the object is made of materials that absorb radar signals. Perhaps it has an active cloaking device. Perhaps it only becomes visible or detectable under specific conditions. While these ideas verge on science fiction, they highlight the inherent difficulty in proving a negative. Just because our current systems haven't definitively detected the Black Knight doesn't necessarily mean it isn't there. It could simply mean we aren't looking for the right thing in the right way. The enduring scientific anomalies also keep the door slightly ajar. The long-delayed echoes, LDEs, while potentially explainable by complex plasma physics, remain incompletely understood. Could some LDEs still be artificial? Some researchers continue to explore this possibility, analyzing the structure and timing of the echoes for signs of non-random patterns that might indicate intelligent processing. Similarly, the occasional detection of unidentified objects by Space Command or other tracking agencies, while usually resolved, leaves open the small statistical possibility of a truly anomalous object slipping through the cracks, perhaps dismissed as sensor error or debris. The sheer volume of space and the ever-increasing clutter of man-made objects within it makes the task of identifying a single, unique anomaly incredibly challenging. It's like searching for a specific needle, not just in a haystack, but in a constantly growing haystack made mostly of other needles. In recent years, the renewed public and governmental interest in unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, has also indirectly breathed new life into the Black Knight discussion. If the government is now admitting that objects with physics-defying capabilities are operating in our atmosphere, as shown in the Navy UAP videos, could similar objects be operating in orbit as well? Could the Black Knight be related to this broader phenomenon? Some researchers speculate that the Black Knight might not be a single ancient satellite, but perhaps part of a larger, ongoing, non-human presence in near-Earth space, a system of probes or drones that occasionally become visible to our sensors. This reframes the legend not as a story about the past, but as a potential clue about the present reality of UAP activity. Ultimately, the story of the Black Knight satellite remains suspended in the fascinating gray area between myth and potential reality. There is no single, irrefutable piece of evidence to prove its existence. The iconic photo has been debunked. The historical accounts are fragmented and ambiguous. The scientific anomalies have plausible, if not definitive, natural explanations. And yet, the legend endures. It endures because it speaks to our deepest questions about our place in the cosmos. It represents the ultimate wow signal, the dream of finding tangible proof that we are part of a much larger, much older cosmic story. It embodies the hope that the mysteries hidden in the static of old radio transmissions and the fleeting blips on radar screens might be whispers from the stars. Whether the Black Knight is a real physical object silently circling above us, or merely a powerful myth reflecting our own hopes and fears, its story serves as a potent reminder. The universe is vast, ancient, and filled with phenomena that still lie beyond the limits of our understanding. The search for answers, the drive to explore the unknown, continues. And perhaps, just perhaps, the silent watcher is still out there, waiting for us to finally look up and truly see.